Welcome to Empowered by Iron, the podcast for female strength athletes by female strength athletes. We are your hosts, Dr. Kristen Lander from Fiercely Fueled Nutrition Coaching and Mary Morton, PhD candidate and weightlifter. Together, we are Empowered by Iron. Our guest today needs no introduction. If you haven't already heard about Kortney Olson, then you're welcome, and be prepared to hear more about her and more about her company and girl clothing for years to come. For those of you who know who Courtney is, then you will understand why we are so excited to have her on the podcast. Courtney has overcome a lot to get where she is at today, and she is just getting started. So buckle in. We're in for a trip. Welcome to the pod, Courtney.
What's up? What's up?
So you're kind of a huge name in the fitness industry and the bodybuilding industry galore. But you weren't always a big name. Can you tell us how you got started and how you kind of got to where you are today?
Well, that's a big ass long question. I hope you have a cup of tea. And it's incredibly ironic that you told your people, Mary, to buckle up, because I often say that before I speak. I'm like, hey, I need you all to strap your seatbelts in, because it might be a bit of a bumpy ride, you know, and you smoked meth for as long as I had. Like, it could get real interesting.
I'm here to keep it. We'll keep it as straightforward as we can.
Yeah, keep it on the path, but it's okay to off-road sometimes. So.
Absolutely.
Hey, I am grateful to be on here. Thank you for the opportunity and for being so patient in getting this to happen, because I know I'm always gallivanting around the globe, and I think it's funny because people have this preconceived notion that I'm like rich and loaded because I have a clothing line, and you know, they'll see me in Australia and then Thailand and Singapore and then the US, and they're like the UK, and I'm like, dude, if you only knew what I had to do to get this plane ticket, all right. But you know, it's interesting because I think you know, more people know the real me than not, and that's just because of always being authentic. And that's kind of what has brought me through, to answer your question in terms of how I've come from, you know, where I was to where I'm at today, has been just by being authentic. Do we cuss on here or what?
Absolutely.
Being authentic as fuck. So it's, you know, that's really, I think, why people have been drawn to what I have to say, or, you know, interested in the message, because, you know, there are those that have been following me for a while and know that what I'm doing with GRRRL has been quite the journey, and it started out as something completely different and morphed into something even different then, and is now what it is today. But even at this stage, I mean, who knows what it'll look like in another 5 years. But, you know, it's always been the same outcome, which is empowering women and teaching self-love and creating a sisterhood. So I could, you know, give you the condensed version if you want. I'm not really sure, like, you know, like podcasts are generally more like a chit chat as opposed to me giving a dissertation. So,
well, that's where we're different. We're a very different podcast. We are all about diving deep into everything that makes people uncomfortable.
Nice. That reminds me, I was on a podcast with three blokes.
Mind Pump?
Yeah. And they were kind of, you know, the same type of a feel, where they're like, nah, we just get into everything. And my videographer, photographer / little protege now, we were writing, and I said, yeah, they call themselves the Howard Stern of the fitness community. And she was like, who's Howard Stern?
Oh no.
I was just like, oh man. And so it's begun, you know. So that's really cool, and that's I was just so pleased that you know, came and you did what you said you were going to do. You were going to find me at the Arnold and bring some vegan donuts. And I was like, this bitch is tripping. She's, you know, a lot of people say they're going to do things and they don't, but it's one of my values, you know, is, you know, being impeccable with your word. And there you were, you showed up with these box of vegan donuts. I think I got to eat like half of one, but the team was really fired up about the box. So It was good.
I'm glad you liked them.
I did, and you rocked up in your girl shirt like a champion, you know, because it's so funny. So many women are like, oh, I love what you're doing, and I think it's great, and it's a great message. I'm like, have you ever bought a shirt or anything? Like, you know, because they like, can I be an ambassador? And I'm like, do you own any clothing? Like, what are you doing here, dude? I mean, it's just funny because this whole journey has been, like I said, it's been real long. So why don't I, Mary Quite Contrary, give you a real condensed, quick fly-through version so we can give your people some background on how this whole thing came about and hopefully inspire your listeners along the way, because I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to give up, you know. And even just before we had this call, I did a live video sobbing because I found, did you know there's a message, a different, or it's called Others messages on Facebook that you have to use an app to access?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So I finally got in there for the first time in like 2 months. And there was a Girl Army member who, the Girl Army is our customers, for your listeners that aren't aware of that. Yeah, and she sent a message saying, you know, 2 years ago, I bought a shirt, sent it back because it was too small and it had dog hair on it. And, you know, you kind of yelled at me, and then jokingly, of course, and then told me about your dogs, and then told me about your closed group. And at that time I was suicidal, and I found the group, and it took me a few months to do my first post. But when I did, it was met with, you know, all this other positivity, and I saw that I wasn't alone. And I mean, I'm about to start crying again because it just, oh man, you know, you're like, well, this is why. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, when you've got such a strong passion for something, but the money isn't there, you can give up real easy because our society is so based off of money. You know, mm-hmm. we've got to have money to do everything, and we're programmed to think that success and wealth comes from having dollars in your bank. And living abroad for a number of years now and watching people in other countries who don't operate that way, you know, it's been really quite the experience, and remembering and to do my best to be like, this is what it's about changing lives. So, you know, whilst it's a clothing brand, it's not like, that's just the flag we fly. It's really just a cover up for all this other epic shit we want to do. And I think it's great that, you know, you've got this empowerment podcast, because you and I are at the forefront of a revolution, you know, along with every other brand out there who is empowering women, because it is time for us to move into a new age, because what we were doing previously obviously isn't working. You know, we're like on the brink of a mass extinction and shit, and everybody's like, what's Kim Kardashian doing today? And I'm like, I don't really fucking care, dude.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter at all. So, look, I was a person that grew up a product of divorce, hated my legs. Mother was an alcoholic. And, you know, that in and on its own, growing up with a parent who's an alcoholic or an addict is detrimental to a child. And even divorce is detrimental, and we don't fully understand how that's going to have an impact on us as we get older, and the behaviors that we create and the things that we do as young adults. So I went off into junior high counting calories. I got to high school, went down the path of anorexia and bulimia. And by my senior year of high school, I found methamphetamines. And what's funny is, you know, all through school, I was the scholastic, the outgoing cheerleader, in a Christian rock band, Associated Student Body president, was going to be the first female president of the United States. That was my ambition. A full ride scholarship to Stanford. I hadn't had it secured, but
damn, girl,
that's what was going on. And I found speed. And so on the outside, you know, it's so funny when parents say to me, "Oh, not my daughter. My daughter's a whip. She's on the debate team, and, you know, she rides horses." And I'm like, just shut the fuck up. You have no clue what you're talking about right now. Let me tell you something. 'Cause you have no idea what is going on inside your daughter or your son's head. You know, we say things, "Oh, how are you?" "I'm fine." "No, you're fucking not. Let's talk about it." Mm-hmm. So what happened was, from there, I spent the year of my senior year on meth and lost a bunch of weight, but nobody figured it out, because oh, not Courtney, you know, because as a society, we make
couldn't be
assumptions.
Courtney. She's
That's right.
the best one.
That's right. She's, you know, she's in a Christian rock band. How could she be smoking meth? Come on, like that shit doesn't add up, does it? So, long story short, I had a teacher finally figure it out, said, right, we're going to either tell your parents or you're going to see a drug counselor. I was like, drug counselor, please. Drug counselor said, why'd you do it? I said, because I lost weight. And he said, I know a guy who is a world champion, ex-Golden Gloves boxing coach and has a drug rehab type program. Plus he was married to a Catholic nun. So what could possibly go wrong? And I went to his boxing class, and he was 72, mind you, and I was 17. And he took a liking to me straight away and said, I want to make you my last prize fighter before I retire. Showed real interest in me. And my third day clean invited me out to his house to look at tapes, order equipment, and so forth. And when I got there, he gave me a cup of cognac, and I didn't realize that this guy was supposed to be my mentor, you know, and I had 3 days off of methamphetamine. So wouldn't have put two and two together anyways, but basically, long story short, I woke up and he was inside of me. And from that point moving forward, I just went on a destructive downward spiral for a number of years. And, you know, it took me, I was, you know, went into rehab at 21, got out, started drinking again, and then drinking and speed, and then got off of that, and then got addicted to pain pills when I was wrestling. Because that wasn't my problem, you see, because my name was on the bottle. And so then I got addicted to pain pills. And, you know, it's through all of that, I looked at the reason why I was had this driving force to continue to change the way that I felt about myself is because I couldn't stand my body, primarily my legs. I always wanted to be a size 0. You know, since as early as I could remember, I could never fit into my friends' clothes growing up. I always felt fat. My mom would always raise hell because I'd always blow the crotch out in my leggings, in my tights rather. And, you know, it's just, you look back and you're like, wow, okay. So this was the driving force of my using. And obviously there's trauma in there from divorce and alcoholic mother and, you know, sexual abuse and stuff. But, the first real turning point for me was discovering this thing called the muscle fetish world, and that I at the time was doing some like topless modeling on the side whilst I was in sales, because I've always been in sales, selling used cars. It's better than selling drugs at this point, you know. So I'm moving up the ladder.
Yeah, and, used cars.
Yeah, girl, I've done it all. You know, it's all taught me so many amazing life lessons. In fact, I can hook you up. No, I'm just kidding. So I was looking around on Craigslist and I saw this, you know, I was high on pain pills at the time, of course, as part of the story, but I saw this ad and it was like a muscular calf video shoot. Athletes and ballerinas must apply. And I was like, $100 an hour. What the hell is this? And I looked into it and, you know, I've written a whole book about this. Like, it's a really, really, really fascinating topic. There's documentaries out there about it. But basically from there, I discovered that there is this whole world of men, you know, because it's rare that women have fetishes because we are biologically programmed differently in terms of breeding purposes and all this kind of stuff. But these men who are into the most, in my mind at the time, random, weird things. Like, I got paid to make videos, to arm wrestle, to pick up my boyfriend and carry him around in different positions, to wrestle him, for him to quote unquote, you know, worship my calf muscles. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I've spent my whole life trying to be a size 0. And now I've discovered, because you know how commodities work. Yeah. Because, you know, at the time, like, CrossFit hadn't really taken off. Powerlifting was just kind of coming around. You know, seeing muscular, powerful women was not a real normal thing as it is today and as it is becoming. So supply and demand. I mean, I'd make hundreds of dollars an hour to stand around and flex and make videos. It was like, what? I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. And I mean, anything from having hairy armpits to smelling socks and
what?
Oh, girl.
What the fuck?
That's exactly right. I said, what the fuck? I said the same thing. I was like, what the actual fuck is going on here? And I started to realize that the world is not what we think it is. And what is on the cover of beauty magazines and all of this shit is not real.
No.
It's simply people trying to sell us stuff that we don't need and to make us feel like we are, aren't whole because we're not photoshopped. And so that's kind of where the first turning point was. The second turning point for me, I met my husband while I was out in Australia. And 4 months later, we got married, which apparently is an alcoholic move, even though I was 6 months sober. Anyway, I'm glad it worked out. We've been
But you're still together.
Years. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's an incredible person, and I'm fully blessed. But you realize, okay, that's not really what married women do, in videos and stuff. And it was nothing bad. Like, it was just kind of like I was over it. But what I wanted to do at that point was, like, grab every woman that walked by me in the street and say, oh, my God, look at your calves. Did you know that there are men out there who would pay you like $200 to make a video to like raise them up and down in high heels? It's crazy. And, that I from there, I started a brand called Confidence by Courtney, and I wanted to start sharing this truth with women. And unfortunately, I still had a really large male following for, at the time as social media, I was just not even really on there, but it was 2011. And, moved up to an area. My husband got a job as the CEO of a rugby team, and journalist. I came on board as the assistant strength training coach to train the under 20s, and a journalist was doing some digging around on the internet because I have a different last name, and found, from my old career days, my little stint in that world, there are some topless photos of me on the internet, and because I had videos on an adult-only website, even though there's nudity, I wasn't topless or doing anything that, I would show my dad or my grandma, but it's considered a fetish because it's not mainstream.
Right. It's not of the norm.
Yeah. And these poor dudes would think like something was wrong with them because they were into something other than like a female blonde with triple D's and a slick shaved body and poofy hair and perfect eyebrows and, a size 0 box gap, like all of these stuff. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. After a while, I started to realize, I'm like, your best friend down the street just sent me an email saying, how much he, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, y'all are fronting. You need to stop. It's okay. So, long story short, this journalist, because of the association with that website, wrote a front page paper, excuse me, that said, CEO hires ex-fetish porn star wife.
Oh, yeah.
The under 20s.
Pulled the P word there.
Yep. And that went around the world. And I had fans in Denmark sending me pictures of the newspaper. And there I am posing, you can't read any of it, but you can understand the word porn star. And I'm like, what the fuck? How is this even news? I went India, the UK, Europe, New Zealand, and I'm like, this is absurd. So, and of course, a year prior, there was a All Blacks rugby player. This is a different type of rugby. There's union and league, but he'd married a porn star, and the whole country was off its head. Good job, son. Way to go. Congratulations. And then all of a sudden, my husband is copping so much heat. Like, how dare you? Are you dumb? I can't believe you were so irresponsible to hire your wife to, and I wasn't hired, I was actually volunteering. Otherwise it would have been an actual big fucking mess. But, he copped so much for that. And for like the entire month, I just had moms bagging me out online. Like, I wouldn't want that slut to train my son and da-da-da-da. And of course the journalist went into, ex-drug addict, alcoholic, and I'd been raped and this and that, and which was fine because I've always more or less been an open book. But the thing that's really interesting is that the day before this story broke, I had applied with Big Brother, Big Sister because I wanted to mentor a teenage girl, and I wanted to tell her all of these things that have changed my life and that I've learned through recovery and that I wish I knew when I was her age. Like, you don't need to know what you want to do with the rest of your life right now. Don't send pictures of your tits to your older dirtbag boyfriend so he buys you beer. And here's why. here's what alcoholism is. Do you have a grandma or grandpa or a mom who can't hold their alcohol when they drink? Now, here are the warning signs. It's hereditary. It's learned behavior. Here's how to be assertive and why it's important. You know, life-changing shit. Like, not who's the 32nd president of the United States. I don't want to regurgitate facts. Like, that got me nowhere in life. So
I don't fucking know that.
Exactly. You want to show, are you smarter than a fifth grader? Like, brilliant. Absolutely
but I can
brilliant.
count on both my hands and my feet how many times someone has told me I need to smile or not look so angry.
Oh, you're like, oh no, you didn't.
Or my favorite one, that I have attitude, which I do. But it's a good attitude.
It's a good attitude.
Continue.
I can imagine that you would cop that a lot now that I'm thinking back to a few photos, or you just have a very stoic look about you. But if you were a man, you would never ever be told smile more.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah. So it's very interesting. So long story short, a story broke, and then Big Brother Big Sister got back to me a month later after because this happened during Christmas time in Australia, and they actually closed for the whole month of December, whereas in America it's like one day off. Yeah, bitch, back to work, you know, and then pay for your fucking health care. I'm telling you, man, I've learned quite a lot living abroad.
Well, we won't get into that. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we don't have time for that right now, okay? So at any rate, I was devastated because they told me, look, you know, good luck with what you're doing. Unfortunately, we can't work with you because of the fact that you can Google and see what you've been up to. And at that stage, I thought, oh God, my life is over. You know, I am this horrible person. I can't follow my dreams, and poor me. And I sat there for like a good 15 minutes sobbing. And for whatever reason, I just had this God shot, whatever you want to call it, burning bush moment, where I was like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to start my own program ran by people who've been there and done that, and not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And that's exactly what I did. I sat at my kitchen table for 8 months, worked on Camp Confidence, which is a program for teenage girls to teach the 5 tools, habits, and principles that lead to the development of self-love, and show them that we first have to love ourselves, and then we can love other girls, and that we need to work together in order to get ahead. And this full 2-day, 2-night wellness retreat was life-changing. You know, we had 62 girls come through that were self-harming and cutting and eating disorders and severe bullying, and they showed up, their phones didn't work out at the place. It was fucking brilliant. But at some point along the way, one of my partners got pregnant, and we needed to put it down. And of course, I was devastated because once again, you know, I'm throwing this vision at the wall and it's not sticking. And it was in the downtime, though, that the concept of girl clothing originated. I mean, we had talked about it a year prior to actually doing something about it. But I truly believe the universe, you know, as long as you show up and ask for guidance, it's that simple, you know, and we really overcomplicate it as humans because we get in our own way. And I still have to remind myself that on a daily basis, but, you know, I've just kept showing up, and it's like one thing will lead to another, and all of these things have happened to bring us to where we are. So we looked at the clothing line and said, okay, look, instead of reaching 8 to 12 teenage girls in Australia every other weekend, with a lot of labor intensity and, you know, a lot of resources.
Yeah.
I've fundraised, you know, we've got an Indiegogo campaign right now for the clothing line, and you can look at my previous 2 campaigns for Camp Confidence. I mean, they kind of fell on their face. I didn't know what I was doing, but that's how we learn, is through failure. And, we, took the vision and the mission from Camp Confidence and rolled it into girl clothing, and basically said, right here, how are we going to promote self-love and show women around the world that our bodies are not equivalent to our exterior is not equivalent to our worth. To start, you know, implementing truth advertising and not just using the 5% body type that mainstream brands use. You know, it's like 95% of women's fashion is made for a size large and below, and yet 50% of women getting active are a size large and above. And even then, what the fuck is a size large anyway? You know?
Well, it depends on what clothing company you're looking at, because it varies.
Right. That is exactly right. So with that, you know, we've revolutionized the way we've done sizing. And because we're an online retailer, women have to actually measure themselves. So they get a true measurement and not just some random ass shit from a different brand that, you know, has become a stigma, because women's sizing was developed by a man in the 1940s from the Department of Agriculture, who was conducting a survey, and in doing so offered a $5 reward and was like specifically targeting a lower socioeconomical background. So women were already malnourished, and, you know, there was no ethnicities really represented, and it's just a really poor representation of the charts. And so, you know, looking at that and saying, right, we need to do away with this stigma, because that has been obviously a driving force my whole life, was what size I was. And, you know, now I'm looking at getting older and wrinkly and gray hair and fat and fucking cellulite and dimples. And, you know, so it's been a long process and quite a journey, and a lot of pain and, you know, sadness. And because there were times 8 years ago, you know, whilst I was in that other industry, and of course I was still taking pain pills, but you would have my head in my hands sobbing because I couldn't leave the house because I didn't have anything I could wear because I felt fat. And I was so consumed in my head with those thoughts of, poor me, my life is so fucked up because I'm not fucking good enough. I'm not ripped up enough. It's never enough. I have the never enough disease. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if I ate something, if I had too many nuts on my froyo cheat meal, then how I was going to work that off the next day by doing an extra 10 minutes, and I'd go into CrossFit at 7:50 instead of 7:55. And you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of mental obsession. And you're like, well, wait a minute. How are we as women supposed to fucking put our minds towards anything, our thought faculty towards improving and creating and generating and loving and caring and doing all this epic shit that we do, if 99.9% of the time we're in our head obsessing on how we can prevent getting, you know, older and fucking all of this shit. And, you know, really started to piece everything together and be like, okay, clearly there's something going on with the media, you know. And I did spend some time down a rabbit hole for a number of years. Mm-hmm. You know, like people call this shit conspiracy theories, but, you know, as time goes on, people are really starting to understand that, you know, there's not really that much conspiracy anymore, and women are truly waking up and realizing that, you know, this thing does go really deep, and you gotta take bites. Like I said the other day to somebody, oh, it was just yesterday in a video, I'm like, you can't feed an infant a steak. You've got to cut it up in little tiny pieces and let them chew a little bit and chew a little bit more. You know, so by time we start cutting into this steak, and you know, we don't really eat steak because,
no,
you know,
my mom had a similar saying though. She'd say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
That's it. Same. Yeah.
Same.
So, you know, it's okay. How do we start to realize that we are not the only ones with these issues? Okay. Where did these issues start? How do we change them? And then now it's like we've got women posting photos without filters and saying, fuck you, I don't care. I've got a little bit of cellulite, but I'm getting strong. And then now we're into the sisterhood part where it's like women are born to be a community. We are not born backstabbing, catty, bitchy, jealous, envious. It's society that programs us through looking at the cover of magazines and to judge our beauty by that in comparison to other women. And that's why we see another woman and we're like, ugh, bitch, or, you know, we're not born that way. And it's already like, it's everywhere you look, women are starting to have that happen. And, you know, that's again, girl clothing. It's like, I told you, you see another girl in the street, or if you came and did the pledge and got that little shitty silicone fucking plastic wristband, which I hate.
Hey, I love those wristbands. I love those wristbands.
I know. I just feel, you know, as you become more evolved, and I won't say woke because I just feel like it's such a stupid term.
It really is.
It really is. But the more you kind of wake up and you're like, you know, spend time watching documentaries as opposed to watching fucking Sex in the City. Because it's not Sex and the City, all right? It's a Mandela effect. If people look that shit up, it was Sex in the City. or watching The Voice or what have you, but you start looking at documentaries and like, what the fast fashion industry is doing in Bangladesh, and 275,000 farmer suicides happen every year there because they can't keep up, because Monsanto owns the cotton industry, and they go back and drink poison and die in their fields. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, do I really want to produce these like rubber bands? But kind of feel like women get it, and they have a life change. They take the pledge, which is a pledge to be non-judgmental towards themselves as well as other females, obviously to the best of their ability. And by saying that out loud for the first time in their lives, often women have this shift in perception, and their reality kind of shifts, and they start thinking differently. And it all starts with awareness. If you don't have any awareness, then there's no problem to fix. So that's kind of the jumping off point. And the clothing, we don't know. Look, I started and I'm like, what the fuck is a GSM? What's an MOQ? Minimum order quantity, and like all these things. I'm like, well, I just want to like make women smile and know that the world is not what they think it is. I don't want to fuck with all this shit,
Yeah.
But again, I read this message, like I said, from this woman that said, "Yeah, I bought this shirt. It was too small, and it had." But she came into the group, and you're like, yeah, that's what it's about. It's not about the clothing. So,
no.
It's been, again, a long journey, and there's a lot of bites to take, but we're starting with the basics and really, encouraging women to come out and touch a barbell for the first time, get on the mats, come, be in and amongst it. And then once you're in an environment of not feeling judged by other women, it's so much easier. And you've got your fucking cheerleaders with you, you've got your sisters. And it's like, life is so much more enjoyable when you're in a community, because as human beings, that's how we are programmed. That's how we are designed, is to be amongst a pack of people that are like-minded and can give you unconditional love, and you can give and receive that. But because of technology, we're becoming more and more detached. And
in companies, they can't make money if we feel fulfilled.
Exactly.
So the best way to make money is to pit us against each other.
Yeah.
And that, as you said earlier with the community, I think a lot of women, as you said, are waking up, especially in the fitness industry, and they're recognizing, okay, there's 100 brands. I could pick clothing from any of those brands, but what do they actually stand for? And to me, that's why I resonated with your company. It's because, I don't spend my money many places because I'm weird about money and I don't like supporting many causes. But I can get behind your message. And that's why for the first time in years, I spent money online and bought clothes. But that's why so many women do it.
It's so funny. I'm the same way. Like, I hate shopping online.
Oh, God, it's the worst.
I'm like, did I really start an online clothing brand? And then
yes, you did.
The other thing, too, is, when we have big legs, it's like you go and everyone's always sold out of the bigger sizes.
Yep.
And it's just ironic because we are, too. And the reason is it's cash flow. And it fucking shits me because women are like, oh, you don't have this you don't have this stocked. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I've been living off $500 for a month because trying to make magic happen, growing a global line. I will admit we've been a little over ambitious in starting in 4 different countries as opposed to focusing on one, or starting live events. We've got our event at Vegas at the end of April. It's, we had 150 some odd women last year, and the event almost put us out of business. Like, legitimately, I still to this day don't know how, it's through my family, to be frank, that we slid through. And it's like, you know what it's like as an entrepreneur every day. It's like, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. But, the event was so life changing that you realize that, okay, you got to do what it takes, because if we don't, and this ripple effect doesn't occur, then we truly believe we're fucked as a planet. And that if the female energy isn't raised quickly enough, that we will not balance shit out and we will perish, between having no fish in the sea by 2020 and what we're doing, even just watching Cowspiracy, that documentary blew my mind. And people were like,
I cried.
I did too, dude. I'm like,
I couldn't.
I just, and all it is just like, what would happen if we stopped eating meat one day a week collectively, but people just don't want to hear it. And that's just kind of like, you think like, well, what the fuck are we fighting for? What am I busting my vag every single day, but people don't see that, they see what they see on social media and stuff. And of course, people don't want to buy from a company that they think that, could potentially be going under, but that's what it's like as a startup, any small thing, if you don't have millions of dollars in your back pocket, can take you out. But I actually read and I'll kind of wrap up with this, but I read an article about Nike. At one point, they had this massive shipment of shoes, and customs, they got hit with like $1 million customs bill in their early days. And they were like, what are we supposed to do with this? Like, we're going to go out of business. And so they had to go and like get the laws changed. They went and, lobbied. And of course they had the money to do that at the time. But what's different is, that was probably in maybe their 10th year. I can't remember. And we're just rounded our 2nd year. And the difference is we have got so many women that get what it is that we're doing. It's not like we've got Serena Williams, endorsing our shit. And now we've got all these top athletes. It's like, no, dude, we are dudette, whatever. We are changing the world fundamentally on so many different levels. And women, like you said, get that. And like, if I needed to be like, yo, one of you, come here, bitches, give me your, which one of you is a lawyer? Lawyer up, let's go. I had a palm reader tell me I'd be looking at jail time at age 37 to 38. And I'm like, great. I wonder what that's going to be about. I'm like, I got a few months left before that happens. So, you just never know what's going to happen. You just got to, like I said, girl, you got to just keep asking the universe for guidance and just keep showing up and do the next right thing and stay focused on the outcome and the end result, which is the sisterhood and teaching self-love. And that's an empowering women to counteract all of the hurt and pain and everything that we've been going through as humanity for such a long time. So we can potentially keep the human race moving forward.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you're doing with your mission and bringing on strong women and sharing their stories and giving women a voice and giving women a platform. It's incredible and it's really important work and you need to acknowledge that. And I never tell people you need to do anything like, you need to do this, but for real, like, get off this fucking call and go look in the mirror and be like, yeah, bitch, you rock. Like you are doing a goddamn good service. Cause that's,
well, I appreciate that because as you said, some days are like, you want to quit and the next 100%. Day everything's fine. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about Girl Live and your campaign that's going on right now?
I absolutely can. Girl Live is a weekend event in Las Vegas. Is girls only. Friday night, we have a pool party. It starts on the 27th. This year, we learned our lesson. It's at the Golden Nugget, so it's all under one roof. Last year, we accidentally booked out the Artisan Hotel, which apparently is a swingers hotel. And they forgot to tell us that the bar didn't close, and the after party was from midnight till 7 a.m. Yeah, that was real special. And then the venue we booked, of course, was on the other side of the strip. Whoops. It was a massive learning experience, right? You got to do everything once. You just got to do it once. Yep. And so, this time it's all under one roof. We've got, like 20 speakers and workshops. So everything from Rose Namajunas is doing MMA, Meg Squats is doing the deadlift. Our size Amina is doing a strong girl. And then, that evening we're going to have a deadlift competition and a strong girl comp, but they're for fun, like you'll win clothes and it's really designed for women who have never touched anything, but also for those who are seasoned veterans and can show others. Cause that's what it's about, being in a community so we can share tools and learn tools and feel like we have purpose and passion. And so then the next day is all about learning tools to empower oneself, freedom from food addiction to this woman who's got a 6-degree black belt, like talking about breaking boards and shit and learning about self-belief. And then the workshops, we've got like plant-based living, sexy body confidence. So girls would be twerking and learning lap dances and shit. Or they could do self-defense. I've got a special workshop with tweens because teen whispering is my thing. I love talking to teenage girls and younger girls and giving them the real deal, because that's how kids identify, is through authenticity. And that's a real special workshop. So that's, and again, the event's age is 11 years up and older. And then we have a special event on Monday. That's kind of like a smaller group, which we still have a few of those tickets left. But I forgot to mention too, Sunday night we have a girl wedding. So 2 of our customers met in our closed group and they fell in love. And the other girls raised money to fly one from New Zealand to Chicago. And they're now going to get married on the Sunday night as like our grand finale, which is just mind blowing to me. I'm like, damn, I got to get some media up in here. Like, but it's just, you just don't have time. I'm like, put it on the list. Put it on the list. That's on the list. That's on the list. So,
I feel you.
Yeah, but it's again, we had 10 women get the brand tattooed post event last year because they were touched on a deep level. And this year it's going to shit all over last year. So I can't even imagine what's going to happen, at this next coming event. But again, women who have, don't feel connected or need to come and learn happiness and all the rest of it. And then our campaign we have right now on Indiegogo is crowdfunding, because we're at the stage now where we need to take this next level. Like I said, it's great that women are taking photos of themselves and displaying features of strength and being authentic. But now it's like, okay, how do we take this and start implementing programs and platforms? We want to have a couple of factories in Thailand so we can get women out of the sex industry, rebrand Camp Confidence into like Girl Guides, and then do a train the trainer type thing so our customers, the Girl Army, can come and learn the material and then take it back home and teach it in their communities. Because so many people want to get involved, and I'm like, I can only give so many people a goddamn code. You know what I'm saying? It's like the whole ambassador thing. It just, I hate it because it's so superficial to me. And it's just like, it's great to be an ambassador, but when you have a code, you feel like you're a salesperson, and that's not what GRRRL is about. Right. And, it's, it is how companies like Gymshark and, they've gotten a lot of business and have grown their business, very, wisely in doing that. But it just really doesn't resonate with me. I would rather be able to give women tangible tools and have purpose and passion and feel like they're having a direct impact on changing other women's and girls' lives. So that's why we put on this live event. It's like the same thing as Camp Confidence. It's a 2-day, 2-night wellness retreat, essentially, amongst other women in the community. And then, running like these programs. So on the campaign, we've got like a ton of clothing, because essentially it's like a pre-sale. But also there is the best thing on there, in my opinion, is our Self-Love Success Academy. And it's basically a portion of Camp Confidence that I've taken, and I'm going to have an online course for women to learn to either do with their daughter or do by themselves. Fucking man can do it too. It doesn't matter. Or non-binary, whatever. I'm not really well versed in that area, and this is why.
Neither am I, but I'm trying.
Yeah, I'm doing my best with the time I have, but we've got a transgender speaker.
You've got Janae Marie.
Yes.
That's our girl.
Speaking. She's super fucking cool, and they, again, the pronoun thing really, I always catch myself up on that, but she'll be speaking intersectional feminism panel, so we can start having conversations about, what it means to leave your house and be a woman of color, and what white privilege fucking means, because when I first heard that shit, I was like, fuck you. You don't know my life. Like, I don't have privilege. But once I, started to listen to understand and not listen to be right, I was like, oh, wow. Fuck yeah, I do. I have a lot of privilege. Holy shit. Mm-hmm. But we can't have those conversations online in Facebook on a forum, when communication is done in person, and that is difficult in and on itself, so yeah. Again, these live events aren't like if we break even, I'll be over the moon. If we get to the end of this and we're not putting ourselves out of business like we did last year, I'll be so stoked, because the ripple effect will make a change, and that's really the thing, is women have got to come together on a deeper level. Like, we're starting to do it on a surface level. But now it's like, okay, bitch, I need to understand. And, you know, where do you bridge that gap between, it's not women of color, it's not their responsibility to say, hey, let me help you, let me hold your hand. But at the same time, you know, a white woman being like, okay, I want to know, can you hold my hand? Because I don't quite get it.
Yeah.
You know, just so we can all kind of understand and, you know, everybody wants to just be heard and understood. And it's really interesting. So again, the campaign is to help us to refrain from having to go down the route of venture capitalism right now. You know, venture capitalism is basically a male dominated industry, and they're breathing down your back, telling you what to do, when to do, how to do it, reporting numbers. Like, I don't even have time to brush my teeth, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, last thing I want is you telling me I can't say fuck in my ad because I'm going to offend somebody. Or, you know, women have been told what to do, how to do it, when to do it for far too long. And quite frankly, I'm fucking over it. You know, I'm about gender equality. I don't use the word feminism because there's a lot of women who don't identify with that, because, you know, there are a lot of women of color who look at feminists and say, you know, you support a feminist who didn't want women of color to have the right to vote, or they're feminists who don't support trans women. And it's all confusing, and they're boxes, and it does my head in. So, you know, I just look, I'm not like burn your bra type shit. I'm just like, look, we're not out here to bash men. Yeah, we do fight the patriarchy, and we want to lift up the female energy. But at the end of the day, it's about us all working together. But we've got to start with women. You've got to have a focus. And then from there, we can look at, okay, great. Let's now heal the world. Let's do what Michael Jackson was trying to do before he got taken out by the Illuminati. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, girl.
Don't get me started. We'll come back to that podcast and maybe, I don't know, give me 6 months. And hopefully, I'm speaking at the FBI headquarters in LA at the beginning of April. And I'm like, why do you really want me there? I'm just playing, but...
you're going to find out.
Yeah, I'm about to find out. So, hey, if I show up missing, at least this shit's documented, you know.
We got it.
At least it's on tape. Unlike, you know, I'm just going to shut up. So, we're just going to leave that there.
If you guys want to go check out Courtney, you can follow her on Instagram, Kortney _ Olson.
It's a mouthful, baby.
Oh, my goodness. And then KortneyOlson.com. And you can get some of her leg building programs, some workouts, and get weekly emails from her. It's pretty awesome. Also, girl clothing, girlclothing.com, girl_clothing on Instagram. And all of this will be linked down below. We'll have the link to the Girl Live and link to the campaign in the description below. So go check that out. Like she said, this is the campaign to help her. It's like perks. So you get something and you can give back in return. Courtney, thank you so much for being on.
I truly, truly appreciate the opportunity, girl.